Baby online programming class. This is the last. It's supposed to be 7. No matter. This is the last class for the. It's supposed to be 7. That's how we're coming to do. They're not online. I send them email. Where do you average? They say Google Meet cannot do what? Cannot take large numbers. I think we're talking about average because how do you use if we are like 5, you can just use as long as you want. We're interested. Then you can use for the whole year. But if you are more than that, then no, it's still a small number, like 100 and beyond. That one, yeah, 650. But not most of them don't come online. How many they join? How many they join? Joining not much, around 20. So. But the advantage is that once you are done with the meeting, it is online meeting. You can go and watch. You don't need to record and upload or send it somewhere. Like it's the same link you use to go and watch. But I want to apply for some funding. I'm trying EduTech. Yes. They fund educational tech related platforms. If they ask you for membership, no, I'm going to do the application tonight. Oh, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Babish. Hello. So I didn't know I was live. I have disgraced myself. Okay. Oh. Sorry. So today we are learning if statement. Something simple. Super simple. Okay. Okay, so no. Divine. Okay, so I'm getting ready. We have to set up everything. I don't know, how did your project go so far? Those who have done it. So if you have questions on the project, just drop it in the platform. Sorry, in the chats, and I'll take a look at it. So the chat is right here in front of me, and I can see everything. So first, let me zoom out. Now we've been writing a lot of codes over the years. Oh, this is no, yes, this one has some codes. We've written a lot of codes over the years, and I don't know. I think that's interesting. Let me do some more audio capture. Guys, can you hear me well? So today we are going to learn one very important aspect of programming. Very, very important. Trust me, what we are going to learn today is very important. Writing is sequential, okay? If you take a look, for example, you can for example, what we wrote is something like this. X is equal to, let's say, 10, or then let's say y is equal to, let's say, 15, then we can say print print x divided by y, or let's say x floor divided by y, then you run your code. Okay, so after running it, we get an answer which we get 0, because 10 divided by 15 is what that will be 0.66666, and when you run it down to the nearest whole number, that's a 0. Yes. Or if we do it y divided by x, okay, y divided by x, and we run this, then we get a 1, because 15 divided by 10 is 1.5. When you run 1.5 down to the nearest whole number, you get 1. Okay, so this is floor division, and this is just a simple division. Okay, but this one gives us 1.5, the actual value, but with a double sign, you get to it rounds it down to the nearest whole number for you. And you realize that when you do a floor division, which is the 1, you get an integer. This is an integer. But when you do the normal division as we did, we get a float. Even if let's say both of them can result in a whole number, you still get a float. Like 30 divided by 15. Let me make it x divided by y. X divided by y. So realize that x divided by y, it's supposed to be what? 2, right? But anytime you make a division, your resulting answer is always a float. So when you run, you see 2.0, because your answer has to be a float. But you can change it if you want. That's typecasting. So we've learned those things: operators, typecasting, variables, strings, and string methods and things like that. Now, if you realize this code is running in order, okay, x will be equal to 30. The next thing that happens is y is equal to 15. The next thing that happens is the computer makes these calculations and prints them out. So you realize that the code so far, we've been writing it in sequence. So let me write it here. So far, we've been writing what? Codes in a sequence. Okay. So today I'm going to show you what we call conditional programming. Okay, conditional programming. So conditional programming simply means that certain parts of the code, will run based on a condition. Okay, based on a condition. So you don't want the code to always run. For example, let's say you are developing a software for an electoral process. Okay, a process where maybe the EC is going to want to have a system to validate people's data. So when somebody is coming to vote and the person is below 18, then certain things has to happen, or the app should be able to do certain things. And if the person's age is greater than 18 or equal to 18, then certain things also has to happen. So you realize that it depends on the age of the person, which you don't know. The app might choose a different thing. Okay, so let me quickly write a simple code like that. So let's say we have somebody whose age is, let's say, 19. Okay, so if the person's age is 19, we want to print what? We want to print you are allowed to vote. You are allowed to vote. Okay, so that's let me call it condition 1. I've not taught you now. Condition 2 is that if the person's age is less than 18, then the computer should rather display you are not allowed to vote. Okay, you are not allowed to vote. So you realize that in reality there are two things you need to print out, but this or that. And the age can be 19, the age can be 17, the age can be 119, the age can be any number. Okay, so let me put none for now. So none means that it's not a number yet, it's not nothing. So age is equal to none. I'm just putting. So whatever input the user gives, you need to either print one of them, either this or that. And that is why we need if statements. Okay. So sometimes if you realize most app uses every app has an condition somewhere, something like a condition. And that is where um, the programming becomes interesting. So you are beginning to learn some fundamentals of programming. Thank you, what Mike, Hey, let me put the Dr. Mike Jason. Yes, yes. Let me mention it well. So it's getting better every day. That's good. Then Clinton Edward Sapontu and what rotary mode or what roto mode. I don't know. So I think you guys are having a great time with the project. Okay, so the last week's project is one of the simplest projects you can ever get, but going forward, it's going to get more challenging, and you have to sit down and understand the problem. So over the years, my experience with programming is that it's not about writing the codes, okay? It's about understanding the problem and solving it. Okay. So you see the codes. The codes are just uh, an ink is like they are words to describe your solution, but the solution itself comes from you. Okay. So if you are being given a project and you ask yourself, oh, which code should I write to solve this project? Then you are kind of getting it wrong. The question is, how do I solve this project? And when you are done understanding how to solve the project, then you translate that understanding into code form. But if you want to just start writing codes to solve the project, you always get stuck and you have to go back and over it again. And that's why I mostly request people to do the uh what is it called? That's why I request people to do the methodology. Sorry, the flow chart, not methodology. Oh, project is all over my head. Okay, so now let us see how we can solve this problem. Okay. Well, oh, I've lost my network. Hello, can you guys see me? Okay, so I think I'm back online. Let me yes. Sorry, I was fixing the internet problem. Okay. So these are the two things. You want one of them to happen. So I'm going to teach you how to write what a conditional statement. So let me remove this one in Python. Then let me remove this one. Okay. So there are two things we need to have. So for condition one, that is uh, if age is greater than or equal to, and I've already taught you this operators from our previous class. So you can see we are building up on something. So if age is greater than or equal to 18, then this is the message we want to print out. Then for condition two, if age, okay, for condition two, if age is what? Less than 18, if the person is less than 18 years old, then we want to print this out. So these are two separate conditions. Condition, yes, correct spelling. Okay, so these are two separate conditions. Okay, and for most of you, I think still up to now, people still here they put in their age like this, their values. Let's say for example age, and they write it here at 19. Especially when they are doing that, the user should be able to input his or her age. So you just say input, okay, Then you ask the question, enter your age. But do not put in this string when you are working on hacker rank. Okay, on hacker rank, I'll remove this string because it will see it as a mistake. There is a reason. I don't want to explain in details, but it's very strict. It will mark according to what it sees. So I cannot really guess what you are going to put in here. So the best thing is that everybody should remove it. That's all. So don't put anything in there. The computer by default knows what to put in there. We are not dealing with a human being. So the computer by default knows what to put in there. So you don't need to even ask a question. Now let me delete this sequential stuff I wrote here. So here we realize that we are going to explore new waters. So here we have what? The age value. Okay. Now whatever be the case, let me print out the age here. Print, let's say, age, comma, years. Okay. Years old. Let me just put something there. Okay. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so come just a minute. I need to check my internet from the phone. Okay, so sorry, I was trying to set up and see if everything is working, but I think from the comment section everything is working. So we have two conditions. Okay, so here we are printing what? Age, then years old. Okay, so these are the two conditions. So let me show you a Python syntax, simple Python syntax to make a decision. Okay, a decision such as these. So we use what we call what? Um, we use if statements. Okay, if statements to make such a decision. Okay, so for example, now let's just write the syntax, or let me say the general formula of if statement. Okay, so with a general formula of if statement, forget about the hashtag. First, you start with the word if, all in small letters, not capital letters. If this is wrong, so in small letters, if, then you state a code, which is usually a condition. Let me call it conditional code. Okay, some simple conditional code. So if this conditional code, we write some conditional code here, then you end with a semicolon. For those who have experience with MATLAB, you do if, then your condition, you don't end with a semicolon. So most often when people switch from Python to MATLAB or MATLAB to Python, now this semicolon becomes a problem. Okay, so no semicolon for MATLAB users, but since we are dealing with Python program, I don't want to confuse you guys. So it is if, then you state your condition, then you put a semicolon, then you click to the next line. To the next line, use what? A tab. When you press tab, it shifts. But remember, the tab shifts by what? 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So you can count here. You can go to settings here and go to settings and change some things. Let me close this one. So they say font, copilot, yes, editor, tab size. So I said tab size is what, 4. So if your tab size is different, let's say 3, that'll be a problem. Please, it should be 4. So as I told you guys, that's why we're using what, uh, VS Code, so that I can show you certain settings you can do and get some things correct. So detect indentation on, okay, and our tab size is what, 4. So anytime you press tab on my, anytime I press tab on my PC, it will input 4 spaces from me, okay. Or you can manually input 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. But if you are sticking to inputting 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, then you have to do that anytime you need to use that, okay. So you have to repeat that thing, 4 spaces, 4 spaces, anytime you need it. But if you are using a tab, anytime you need it, you need to use the tab, okay. But let me just use 4 spaces for academic sake, for academic work sake, okay. So let me see. Okay, so let's continue. So once you state your word if and you mention the condition, you follow by a semicolon, then you state what should happen. So let's say action code here if true, okay. Action code here, let me just put true, okay. So if this condition is true, then this action code should happen. That's why I put true at the end, okay. So if this condition is true, then this code should happen. But if this condition is false, then this code won't happen, okay. So for example, let us continue with our coding we were doing earlier. So from here I can say that let me take this one out. So already from here we are taking an input from the user, okay. So I'm going to say if, and remember we need to convert age into an integer. So let me say age is equal to the integer form of what, the old age. We are saying integer because we are expecting the user to input a whole number like 30, 20, 19, 17, and so on and so forth. So per the syntax, when I state my if, I have to write my condition. So after your if, you put a space. Then what is the condition? The condition is that age. So if age is greater than or equal to what? If age is greater than or equal to 18, so if the person is 18 years and above, then what? That's my conditional code. This is my conditional code. So if this is my conditional code, which you know will yield true or false, because we've already seen it, then end with what? A semicolon. Okay. So then I end with a semicolon. I press enter. Now in VS Code already knows that when you're working with Python and you put a semicolon here, by default, it has to make an indentation for you. Okay, so it's put it there. But in case it didn't, now if you don't put the semicolon and press enter, it will start from here. But you can put your indentation yourself and write your code. For now, let me put pass, okay, and write your code. But then we need to put the semicolon at the back here. Okay, so we are saying that if then our condition is true, semicolon, do the action here. So action code here. So if this is true, if the person's age is greater than 18, what should the computer do? That's what you're going to write. So the computer should simply what? Print, you are allowed to vote. Okay? Print, you are allowed to vote. So if this condition is true, then perform this action. If it is not true, nothing will happen. So already we have the age here. Now let us run it and see what would happen from here, this side. Let's see. So let's run it and see. So age, let me try something like 10 years. It says nothing happened because the condition is saying if the age is greater than 18, print you are allowed to vote. Do not assume the computer will print you are not allowed to vote, because we never wrote anything here in our code that you are not allowed to vote. This one here are commented, they've been comments, or they are comments in the code, they are not codes. So this is a code. We are saying this code should only and only run if the age is greater than 18. Simple. So when we put an age of 10, nothing happened because there is no code saying the computer should do something if the age is less than 10. Now we can rerun it, and this time around, instead of putting 10, let's put a higher number. Let's say 19. You say you are allowed to vote. So you realize that this print statement only worked when the age number was greater than 18. So most often than not, your computer needs to make decisions. Okay, your computer would need to make a decision whether to do action A or B, whether to go or come. Whatever it is, it's going to make a decision. Okay, so let us look at something else, another application of this. Now, I'm not really done with the work here. I'm not really done because we need condition 2. Okay, so the same way we did for condition 1, we can write the same way for condition 2. We can also say if the age is less than 18, then rather do this: print you are not allowed to vote. Okay, so when I run this and I say the age is 10, okay, since the age is 10, this one will be false. Therefore, this code will not run. And it comes here, 10 is less than 18, which is true. And therefore, this one will rather run. So the computer will select between running this and running that. But trust me, this is not the efficient way of doing things, but it's the basics, okay? So I'm just doing this way because it's the basics. So it says you are not allowed to vote. When we run it again and it says 18, it says you are allowed to vote, and so on and so forth. Then let's put 30, you are allowed to vote. Then let's put another one, let's say age, let's say 100, is still you are allowed to vote. Okay, so you realize that our computer keeps on making decision of whether to print this or that, and depending on the condition you satisfy. Okay, so I think that serves as a fundamental of the if statement. Now this is not efficient, as I've said, so let me write it here. This code isn't efficient enough. Okay, there are better ways to do it. Okay, so let me take another problem and let us see how best we can do this. But before then, let me check if I'll be okay. So let me quickly, I'm going to turn off my video feed, then I would this one. So okay, so you guys can hear me. I'm trying to get something. I'm trying to get some documents online, and I don't want you to see the project. That's why I've turned off my video feed. Okay, I don't want you to see the project. So I want to go and check the project question so that I can safely um, do not attempt to solve it. Oh, yes. Okay. So this project is going to be interesting. That's interesting. Okay. So, um, yes. Okay. Now let me turn back on my video feed. Okay. So sorry for that. Um, okay. So the next thing I want to address here is, let's say, traffic light. I think we solved the traffic light problem where we were saying that the child should cross if what the traffic lights, I think we solved the problem like that. I don't know if we have it here. Well, I don't think so. Well, we had a problem like that where I gave you a project and the child was supposed to either cross or not, depending on the color of the traffic light. So let me open another code, then say maybe traffic lights dot py. Okay, so we are going to write a code here. We are going to give an output to the child given the color of the traffic lights. Okay, so I think the traffic lights problem, I just told you to write the algorithm. I think so. We just wrote the algorithm. We didn't do any work. So in that algorithm, let me go and show you the algorithm. Let me try and get the algorithm. I think I stored it somewhere here. This recap on flowcharts. Okay, so mm, let me see. Yes. Oh, so this one is okay. So during the session, I use the CWA. Okay. Okay. So let us take something like this. So the if statement you've been writing in Python is what we use this one to represent. Okay. So oh, there's too much noise. So the if statement in Python is what we represent with the diamond shape. Okay, so I'm going to convert this algorithm. I think I used this one for explanation of algorithm in the first class we had. So here we're going to have the user enter what? The CWA, and if the CWA is greater than or equal to 70, that is if it is true, then it will display what? First class. If it is not true, it should display what? Not first class. Okay. Then at the end of the day, the code ends. So let us translate this one into a Python code. So the first thing we have to do here is what? Enter CWA. So that's what we are going to do. So step one, taking input. Okay. So I can call it CWA. Then I put the word input. Then I say maybe enter your CWA. Okay. That is simple. Now let us go on. The next thing is we have to make a decision. Is CWA greater than or equal to 70? So step two, make a decision. Okay. So we are going to say if CWA, now I've intentionally made a mistake because I know most of you are going to make that mistake. So I've intentionally made a mistake and I'll correct it later. So if CWA is greater than or equal to 70, semicolon, that's our condition. This is our condition. Now in some codes, they can put a bracket around their condition. So they can do something like this. Okay, so if this condition, which is in a bracket, if it is true, then what? Print you are, or print what? First class. Okay, print first class. So for now, this is what our code can do. Okay, now let us run it, and you are going to get an error. The computer is not showing any red signs here, any error, but we are not going to get an error, but it's going to give us some form of error, which we call semantic error. There's an error in terms of meaning here. Okay, the computer doesn't understand something very clearly here, because, and I know most of you are likely to make this mistake, so I'm pointing it out now. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not online. So enter your TW, let's say something like 75. Now if I enter 75, I'm expecting it to print what? First class, right? Let's see, it won't print first class. Says this, greater than or equal to sign not supported between instances of strings and integer. So it's saying that one of the value is a string, one of the value is an integer. I know for sure 70 is an integer. It has to mean that the CWA is a string. And I always tell you, default data type of um, default data type of inputs are what? Strings. So anytime somebody makes an input to your code, by default it's a string. So we have to change CWA into an integer form. So we say int, okay, then we put CWA. Okay, so now that we have CWA in an integer form, then we can now make the comparison. It's not compulsory to put the brackets. You can put it there, it won't spoil anything. You can take it out, it won't spoil anything. You can put a lot of spaces here, it won't spoil anything. All what Python knows is that after this command, there should be a semicolon before the next code. Okay. Now when I run this, I get let me put something like 75. Now it prints what? First class. Okay. There's too much noise in my background. Sorry about that. Uh, Sorry, somebody's riding his car out there making noise. Okay, that's just by the way. So say if this condition is true, end with a semicolon, now print first class or perform this action. It's not always you're going to print first class. You can do a lot of things. Maybe print first class, maybe print steady hard, or you can add as many code as you want, as long as these codes are in line, are indented, and you look at this line is following them. So this line means that all these codes are under this condition. Now if I'm to go out of this condition, say something like this. So if I'm to write a code here, say um, print by, or let me say print you did great. Okay, so we are saying that if CWA is greater than or equal to 70, print first class, print steady hard, then come and print you did great. Now remember, you did great is not a part of the if statement. Let me show you why. Let me prove it to you here. So when I run this, let me put something like 69. Okay, so 69 is less than 70. So first class wouldn't print, steady hard wouldn't print. I know you are expecting that you did great shouldn't also print, but you did great will print out. So when we run this, we get what? You did great. Now the reason you did great printed out is because it is not under the indentation. It's not being indented. So you did great is a code on its own. It is outside of the indentation. Once a code gets outside, so codes that are outside of the indentation are not influenced by what? The condition. So this code here, you did great. It's going to print whether the condition is correct or wrong. or is true or false, because the you did great is on its own. This code, this part is one code, okay, and the you did great is outside of it, okay. Now, if you are to shift the you did great this way, then you see the line extends, meaning that this code is under the if statement and it will only print under the condition. So now let us try it again. So this time around, I'm going to run it. I'm going to put the same 69 and realize that nothing was printed out because I've put this code under this condition. So it will only run when this condition is true, okay? But if you take it outside like this, then it is no longer under the condition of the if statement. So you can see the line only ends here. It only ends for these ones. These ones are under the control of the if, but this one is outside because you've shifted it outside of the indentation. And that is one thing you need to take care of. So from here, if I put even 50, yeah, okay. So if you put 50, you would see what you did great. Okay, so you did great and things like that. So take note of the indentation. If condition semicolon indent, then you put in your codes. Anything that falls within the indentation is under that condition. If you shift it outside of the indentation, it goes outside of the condition. Now let me do some little debugging here. Okay. Now sometimes if you find error in your code, let's say there's an error in my code, I don't know where the error is located. I can just come out, there's the numbers, right? Behind the numbers, I can put something we call breakpoint. So this red dot means that, hey computer, when you get to this point, stop. I can put more breakpoints, okay? But I only need one for this condition. So I put the conditional, I put the breakpoint here at line 5, okay? I put the breakpoint at line 5. Then let me run the debugger. So you see this one with something like a bag by the side. So when you click on it, it tells you run and debug, okay? Run and debug. So when I click on run and debug, I select what? Python debugger. Then I select Python file, okay? So it runs the code for me, okay? Just like the normal running, okay? So let me make things smaller a little. So from here, you can see that this is my code, okay? This is my code, and this is some small control panel that comes up. You can move it around. Then let me move it to this side, okay? This is a control panel. So the computer is waiting for us to make our input. So let me go and make an input. For example, let me make 69, okay? Now, the computer stops here. It has stopped here because I put the red dot here. So I'm telling the computer that when you get to this line, don't continue, wait for my command. So the code is not done, it is still running. So you see this panel here, there are different tools. So the code is waiting for our command, and you realize that in your variable section, you realize that in the variable section here, you see CWA is now what? 69, like in quotes, in strings. Now when I click on this one, means step over, that means run only this line. So it should run line 5. When I click on it, line 5 has been run. Now it has changed the CWA into an integer, and now you see the value has changed. So the debugger helps you to inspect your code. So once this line is done, the code has shifted to the next line. This is the next line. So here in this next line, it is going to do what? If CWA is greater than or equal to 70, okay, it's going to perform this action. So when I write run the code or step over, it gives us a certain condition. Now the condition is false. So CWA is 69 and it is not less than, sorry, it's not greater than 70. So because of that, it shifts everything and goes to the next one. It skips over these ones. So you saw it skipping. So it's moving from this line all the way to this line. Okay. So then from here, because this is not under the indentation of this print function, when you run it, it says you did great. Okay. So let me add one more code here. Let me say print end. Okay, sorry. Maybe end. Let me just write something like that. Now, if I shift this one out of indentation, now only this would run. Only this part would run if the condition is true. But these ones, let me shift this one out. But these ones will run even if the condition is false, because they are no longer under the rule of the conditional statement. So let us run it again and see. So I'm running my run and debug. That's the reason why I told you to install this one, so that you can really do these things. So let me input a certain value, like let's say 79. Okay, and we press enter. Now you realize that once we are done with this line, it stops on this line because I've asked it to stop here. The 79 is a string, as we discussed. When I press enter, it converts to an integer, goes to the next line, waiting for my command. When I press this one, because this is true, CWA, which is what, 79 is greater than or equal to 70. Because it is true, now this line is going to run. That's why it has been selected. Okay, then I say, okay, go ahead and run. So it says print what? First class. Okay, then it goes to the next line it should run, which is print. Then goes this one, study hard. Then it goes to the last but one, you did great. Then it goes to what? End. Okay, but then if we shift this one, but then you did great, you want to only give it to the first class student. So if you shift this one under the indentation sign, and uh, this one too. Okay, so all of them are under the indentation sign now, but this one isn't. This one isn't. Also, these ones are under the indentation, but this one isn't. So let us see how you can run this. So it will stop here at the red dot. So let me put in a number. Let me say 39. Okay, so CW, your input. Now 39 is an integer. When we run this, converts 39 to an integer. Sorry, initially it was a string. Now it converts to an integer. Then CW is greater than or equal to 70. Is it true or not? Sometimes you can click on watch. Okay, then you double tap in here. Sometimes you want to watch something. You want to focus on something else than these global variables and local variables. So I can put in the whole condition here. CWA greater than or equal to 70. Okay, so when I press enter, it's telling me it is false. So I want to watch how the condition is changing. So this condition is false. So the computer will skip over all these and come here. Come to the next one. Okay, so when I run this, it skips, it jumps all over and come here. And when I run it again, it says end. So nothing happens if the CW is less than what, 70. But then when you look at our algorithm, what we want to achieve is something should happen if it is false. Something happens when it is true, but we don't see it when it is false. So let me run it again and let me make it true this time. So let me put, I think the current CWA record is around 92 point something. So when you press enter, converts the CWA. So it's watching this. CWA greater than or equal to 70. We've not gotten there yet. So you see type error. Okay, type error. So let's go on. So now it comes here. If CW is greater than or equal to 70, now the value here is what? True. So since the value here is true, then what is in here would run. So print first class, it will print. Now print study hard, it will print. Print you did great, it will print. Then once it is done with all these, okay, once it's done with all these, it follows the code. So if I'm to make it small, you realize this. So this one runs, the if condition runs, and there's some details inside there. I've covered it. There's some details inside the if condition, they also run. Then the next thing outside is what? Print end. Then that one too also runs. So then everything goes back to completion. Now let me close the debugger. So later on we'll learn more about how to use the debugging method. Now let me open this if statement. Okay, so this is an if statement. Now with the other code I wrote, so we are saying that if it is false, okay, if it is not true that this, if this is not true, then you shouldn't print first class, you should print what? Not first class. So most people would do this. If CWA is less than what, 70, okay, then what? Print not first class. Okay, then we come out of the indentation and print end, or let me just say, I'm just putting print end. It's not really important, but I just want you to know that this one is outside of both of the if statements. Okay, so when we run this, you realize that I'm not using the debugging feature, so you'll not see everything runs at once. So if I put something like 89, it prints what? First class, study hard, you did great, end. Okay, now if I'm to rerun this now and I put something like 56, it prints what? Not first class, end. So whether this condition is true or false, any of them is true or false, the end always prints because it's outside of their indentation. It is not inside of any of them their indentation. If you put this end, the end statement, inside of the second condition, okay, so this first condition is what? If first class, sorry, if the value is greater than or equal to 70, this thing should happen. Now, if the value of CW is less than 70, this one should happen. Because you've put this one under the 70, it won't run if this is false. Okay. Now, sometimes people make mistake and do this, where you want the end to run no matter whether the condition is true and false, but then you forgot and you put it under a condition, and because of that it never runs because the condition is false. For example, so let me put something like the CW is greater than 70, something like 89. So it says first class, study hard, you did great, and nothing happens. But if I run this and I put something like 67, says first class, not first class, then n comes. But in this case, we want the n to appear whether something happens or not. So it should be outside of any of the if statements. In that case, when I run this code and I put 67, it says not first class, end. When I run the code again and I put 78, it says what? First class, study hard, you did great, and end. So end appears in both conditions because it's not bounded by any of the condition. Okay, so to end the class quickly, because this is all what I want you to focus on. You should, at the end of the day, you should be able to write a simple if statement. A simple if statement. So let me focus on, let me go over one more time, or let me show you the else side. So you realize that this condition and that condition are related. Okay, if this is true, the computer should do this. Okay, you realize that this condition is else, the computer should do this. Because if your value is greater than 70 or equal to 70, if your value is not greater than 70 or equal to 70, definitely then it is lower. There is no two ways around it. If the number you have in your head is not equal to 70 and it's not also greater than 70, then it has to mean that the number is by default less than 70. So you don't need a separate if condition for this. Okay, so what you have to put here is else. So you are telling the computer, now let me write this syntax again for you. So the syntax of if and else, let me write it here. This is just an extra lesson. We'll go over the if and else. So syntax for if and else. So we say if, then we put what? Our condition, our conditional code, here. We put a semicolon, okay. We go to the next line. We put an indentation. Sorry, the number of spaces I typed. We put a certain action. So let me just say action code here, okay. And this action code will happen when the condition is true. But if the condition is false, that's why you put your else. For else, you don't need to put a condition. The else relies on these conditions. So if the condition is false, you say what? Else, then you bring your what? Your action. That's the alternative what? Action. The other action the computer should rather do if it is false. Action code here. That's when the thing is false, when the condition is false. Okay, tomorrow the next lesson will still go over this, but you can see that's what I've written here. So let me quickly delete it and rewrite it. Okay, so I'm going to say if the person CWA is greater than or equal to 70, then what? Print first class. Okay, else print, hey, what am I typing? Else print not first class. Internet rate is it's quite down. Let me disconnect this so I can get full internet access. Okay, so let me continue and let me assume that you guys can see me. So reconnection successful. So works when the initial condition above is false. Okay, so this condition, when this condition is false, then this one will run. So if you realize that else, you don't need a condition, you don't need to put else CWA less than 70. Now we don't do this. Else, the else part doesn't have a condition. The else relies on the condition above, this one, on the conditions above. So then this is what happens. So I think I've fairly solved the problem, unless there's any other question. Now, today will be our last meeting before exam. After exams, we are going to go into a much detailed one. I'm going to show you a certain trick. Like for example, let's say I can write this if statement. Okay, it's okay. I'll not do that. I won't. I won't do that. Okay, so that's just by the way. So okay, let me just show off. Let me just show off a little bit. So we can say print what not first class, or let me say first class. Okay, if CWA is greater than or equal to 70, else print not first class. Okay, so this is another way of writing it, but don't follow this one. Okay, this is, let me comment this one out and let me test if it works. This one, please, please, and please again, I'm just showing off. I'm just showing off. The reason why I show off is not to impress you, but just to let you understand that one kind of code can be written a million times in different ways. So if you go out there and you see somebody writing the codes, as long as it works, that is it. For programming, as long as it works, nobody cares. So let me put 898, it prints first class. If I run it and put something lower, 45, it prints not first class. And whatsoever, I run it, let me put something 70, it says first class. So forget about this. I'm going to show you some more detailed ones, okay? And these techniques in our next. Then your else codes what here? Else codes here. Then that is it. So this is a syntax. Okay, we call it syntax. Syntax means how you write it. Syntax. Okay, so if condition is true, perform this code. Else do this. Okay, if condition is true, perform this code, else do this. Okay, so this is all what I want you to understand for today. Forget about this code here. I know some people want to learn it. If you learn it, fine. If you, but I'll definitely show you how to do it in the next class. Okay, but if condition semicolon do this code, else semicolon do this code, you can remove the else statement, and this is also fine. If condition do this code, else nothing will happen. If the condition is not satisfied, it just skips. Just the same way I did it here. Realize that if we remove this, okay, let me comment it out. For programmers, we don't like deleting. So there's no else statement here. So when I run this and I specify my age to be less than 18, let's say I'm 16 years old, nothing happens because there's no else. And sometimes it's totally fine. Sometimes you may want your code, you may want nothing to happen in your code, okay? And since we've just only done 1 hour, let me lastly show something. Let me just show off a little, not show off, but let me teach you one more trick, okay? So let me teach you one more trick before I end the class. My internet is very shaky. Okay, so sometimes you are only interested in, maybe you're not interested in printing something here, but you put else. Okay, so you can say that, let me remove this part. If the person's CWA is greater than or equal to 70, print first class, else pass. The word pass simply means, hey computer, don't do anything, just skip. Now somebody will ask, why do we put pass over here? Now imagine I don't have anything to write. Okay. The question says, if the person is first class, print what? If the person is 70 and above, print first class, right? But the question didn't really tell you what to do if it is not. And let's say miraculously, you put in an else statement. In this case, you don't need an else statement. But once you put in an else statement, you can't leave here blank. According to the syntax, if condition, something should be there, else something should be there. You can't leave it blank. Okay, so sometimes if you don't have anything to put in there, you can put pass. Pass means that, computer, I need to put something there, but now I don't have anything, so I'm putting pass. So when you see pass, just pass. Just go on with your normal life. Don't throw an error. If you remove this and you run it, it will tell you an error. Error. So indentation error. Okay, this is an indentation error problem. Expected an indentation block after else statement on line 10. So it was expecting. So we put pass just to make it hold. So now there's no error. So when I put in 56, else pass, it doesn't do anything, just moves on. Okay, but sometimes too, maybe if it is less than 70, you may want to what, print, let's say, not first class. But if the person is first class, you may not want to do anything. You can just put pass. So if the person is first class, computer, don't do anything. But if the person is not first class, encourage them. Maybe you need to work hard. Or let me say you need to work hard. Okay, you need to work hard, something like that. So if the person is a first class, you don't have any encouragement for the person, so you just say pass. If CW is greater than or equal to 70, pass. Else, do this work. So you see the pass comes in handy. Let me remove this one. So else pass. And so if I put in something like 79, nothing happens. But if I put in something like 45, then you need to work hard. So you realize that this is sorry, I'm talking about first class a lot. We all aspire to get there, or be there, or have been there. I don't know, but it's just a lesson. Okay, exam 2 is approaching, so we wish you all the best of luck in your examination. At least your efforts should pay off. It should pay off in the exam. So that being said, let me say I've come to the end of my class. So remember, if condition semicolon, then your code with an indentation. Okay, now if you're able to write this, I'm happy. If you can go the extra mile to add else semicolon, then your indentation, then your code here, then I'll be more happy. So this, at least if you can write this one correctly, I'm happy. If you can add the else part to this, I'll be more happy. Okay, now that will be the end for today. I'll try as much as possible to upload a simple project, just a simple if and else statement. Very simple. I don't want to make it too complicated. Very simple. Complicated ones are coming next week. Sorry, after the exams, that will be in 4 weeks' time. We are going to come back and we're going to write much more complicated codes. Okay, so let me go online and check if there's any question for me. So somebody's asking about the long vacation tutorials. So the long vac tutorials is for those who will finish this. This one will finish next semester, okay, before even midterm starts. We'll finish that. So the long vacation one is also a new class. So you have to register again, okay. So the long vacation class, it's also a new code. So if you want to rejoin, then that one is starting all over again. But that one is open to the public. That one all people can join. no matter your program. This one is a special edition for engineering students, supported by Prof. Ejiajiman. So that people, engineering students who need programming lessons can get them. So but then the long vacation one is PyTech Hub. We do our programming class and anybody can join. Well, sometimes it comes as at a cost of $1. Yes, the cost is for a reason. The reason, $1 is what? Is it 12 cedi or 13 cedi or something? Yes. The reason is that, and you can even see it here, most people do not really uh, participate, or most people are not active when it is free. That's what we've seen over the years. We've been doing it for 3 years now, and most people are not really active because, after all, he or she doesn't lose anything. But then it costs us because, for example, I have 650 people. I have to email them. Sometimes my emails will be blocked as spam. I have to find means and ways to reach them. Saving contacts, people chat me with their problems, I have to reply, and all those things. It is time consuming. Okay, so if people are not participating, then it's like you are trying to move a lot of people and they are very relaxed, and it makes everything stressful. Now, if 20 people are serious and I'm dealing with 20 people, then everything becomes easier because I know I'm dealing with 20 people. But if I have 650 and only, let's say, 50 are very serious and about 600 are not serious, but then you still have to send the 600, all of them, emails. If there's a problem with any of them, you still have to get back to them and make sure that they are getting whatever they need to get, because you don't know who might be serious or who might not have been. So then we put in the money that they pay, one, to support us. For now, I'm using school data, right? Now, if I was to be in the house in the long vac, then all the data, like for 2 hours online, so it means that it will cost me. So I have to get, so all what you are doing is just contributing that $1 to pay for our internet connections and our services, like some basic things to run, but not necessarily we are charging you for that. There are courses we charge for, but for introduction to Python, we want to make it free as possible. Free in this sense is that everybody can at least learn to code. $1 shouldn't be much if you start saving, but $1 is just 12 cedi, that kind of thing. So that's the reason. And we notice that when people pay, for example, if you've paid your money, it's more difficult for people to just pay money and just not participate. Like, you just paid money and you just forgot about the course and you decided not to participate. As compared to, I sign up for a course, I feel like I'm too busy, I don't need it, I just ignore. When they send messages, I just ignore. Whatever they say, I just ignore. Anytime I want, I just come back. But when you pay something, you can't just say, oh, I registered a course, I paid for it, let me just ignore, I'll not mind them. No, it increases the participation level. Okay, so that's why we do that. But you can still join the long vacation class to refresh what you've done. Okay, so we are done for today, and as you can even see, only 7 people are viewing this message at the moment, and we have 650. So realize that, but some people will come and watch later, but even the average duration people are watching this video is 10 minutes. So we've had like 1 hour, and people on average are spending like only 10 minutes on the video. That means they just come online, after 10 minutes, they log off. They don't really care because they don't really lose anything. After all, it is them. So let me end the video here. We'll meet after this vacation. But maybe I don't know, maybe we can keep in touch so that you can be coding small and send it to my DM or whatever it is. Then we can take things from there. So bye. If there's no question, if there's question, you can send it to me on WhatsApp. Okay, or if you want to join, if you are not part of this coding class and you came across this video and you want to join, you can email us on pytech hub, pytech hub, so pytech.hub, hub, at gmail.com. So pytech.hub@gmail.com. So email us here. So email us on pytech.hub@gmail.com, and we are going to reply you. You can join our future classes and things like that. So bye.